I am very excited today to have a couple of special guests. One that we had planned and one that was kind of unplanned, but definitely fortuitous. As you'll see here on the screen, I've got Milton Chavis, CEO of MDW Basketball, and not wearing a hat for the first time in my known life of Milton. I just assumed you slept in that. I just assumed everything happened with a hat. So it's good to kind of see you as a human being now. So that's pretty cool, Milton. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
We also, I've also got James Williams, NBA referee, Gucci Ref, as many of you know him, one of the hosts of our Court Views podcast, with a guest today. James, do you want to introduce your guest with you?
This is my friend and colleague here in Chicago, Marc Davis. So I'll let him introduce himself.
Well, I'm going to be taking my hat off. I wore it in honor of Milton. That was the reason why I'm on this podcast. I got to do what I do. I'm a huge fan, and I just huge fan of Milton because I think he speaks to this podcast and he speaks to what you just said, Sony, about combining those two worlds. And I think he's the epitome and a great example of how we can take this game to the next phase and he really secretly has the answers to a lot of the issues that face our sport now, and it's education and understanding. I think, so I've been drawn to his site for the last 3 years because it is a site that specializes in both education and understanding. And I think there is only one page. And when we're all on that page, I think it makes everything a lot easier. And I think Milt's been a great leader in that space of that one page for each league and what that page involves, and then understanding both at the coaching level as well as the playing and the officiating level, that there really isn't a lot of discussion or issue around or controversy around what is and is not a rule. So I just big shout out to Milton for what he does for our game.
What year are you going into?
This is my 28th year in the NBA.
So Marc is going to year 28. And so today we were doing our last study session before we go back to work. And one of the questions on the test was about traveling. And that's when he's like, oh, MDW Basketball. And he's talking about Milton. I'm like, well, we're doing a podcast with Milton in like 2 hours. He's like, oh, I got to go meet Milton.
That is such a true story. I had no plans on being on this today. But we were explaining a rule, and I said, you guys got to look at MDW Basketball. This is articulated so easily. And he's like, what? I'm like, yeah, Milton. He's like, oh, I'm going to be here too. Yes.
For sure, man. I'm a fan of you guys as well, man. So I appreciate that. That means a lot to me, dog.
That's really funny. And when I saw Marc right before we started this today, I was like, oh, great to see you. And he's like, yeah, I'm not here for you. I'm here for Milton. This is genuine. He really is here for Milton. And we're just excited that it all kind of worked out. But we also have another guest with us today, Chip Clark, who lives not too far away from me in Lakeland, Florida. Right. And Chip is a longtime referee. He does a lot of referee assessment work with Deep Dive Ref, but also as a college basketball referee. And what was the language we used earlier, Marc? You called him Milton's mole in the officiating world. So you both have known each other for quite a while. And I want to follow up on that, talk a little bit more, Chip, about the work you do and also your work with the Orlando Magic as a statistician. Yeah. But our audience here, they want to hear us talk shop. They want to hear us talk basketball. So let's get right into it. We got a number of plays today, and let's give some red meat. I was going to go in a different direction with our first post here, but since we've got a certain someone here just for Milton, let's talk about some classic Milton stuff. I've got a play here I want to put up. Let's go here. Yeah, let's go right to this one. This is a post that you shared recently, Milton, and there's two things to look at. But before we get your analysis in the chat, let us know. There's two things here: the beginning of the play, at the end of the play. Let us know in the chat. Do you see one violation? Do you see two violations, or do you see no violations? I'll play this a couple of times before we get to the analysis. But just classic kind of Milton content here. I'll play that just a couple more times. Let us know in the chat. Do you see 1 violation, 2 violations, or no violations? Give it just a minute here. Let's see.
This is
one more time.
Pause the video. Oh, okay.
Typical Milton.
Yes, sir.
Milton, you've been posting this stuff for how many years?
Since 2019?
Yeah, 2019.
2019, bro. That's when it started. Yeah, November 2019.
November 2019. It's been
Yeah.
a long time.
Yeah.
And so, and these are still plays. You know, I looked in the comments section in this. These are still plays where people argue with you on this.
Yeah.
5 years later.
Yeah. I mean, people just they're stuck in their ways. They see something that looks off to them and they want to deem it illegal, but that's not how it works.
Now, I see a couple things in here. I see some folks say 0 violations, you know, like Leia. Natasha says 1 violation. Justin says no violations. Ish says 1 at the start of the play. So give us your analysis.
So technically speaking, I would say at the beginning of the play, we have a rip through travel. Lifts his pivot foot before releasing the ball to start his dribble. And then on the second portion, I believe it's legal on all levels. He crosses the ball over, delays the end of his dribble until either both feet are off the floor. Let me see. Until, that left foot is on the floor for step 1, and then step 2 on right to his finish.
So here's the thing that everyone, I think, gets caught up on.
Yeah.
They get caught up on when the gather starts with one hand here, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing everyone is like just going crazy about the last 5 years.
Right.
And that's you're saying that the gather starts there. That's where his dribble ends, right?
Yeah.
Mark and James and Chip, interested to hear your thoughts on this. Do you agree with Milton's analysis, or do you see it a little differently?
Go ahead, James and Mark. I'll let you guys go first.
I agree with his analysis. I think that to the human eye, that first one is very difficult to pick up. Yeah. Although once you freeze it right there, you can see that is. But yes, in fact, the ball must be released prior to the dribble, prior to the pivot foot coming off the ground. And then I'm perfectly comfortable with the gather on 0 on the second one, because I think if you just go anecdotally and you say at what point could he not dribble again, it'd be called a carry. So he dribbled there. We wouldn't call that a carry just yet. And so that's not there now. It is, and that's why we're in the dribble.
Yeah,
I just anecdotally, that's how I would answer that.
I see that the same way, Mark. And keep in mind too on this gather at the end, like once they start to pull the ball across, then we can see that the ball is possibly at rest. But that's not until the left foot is on the floor. Prior to that, once he starts to, exactly, when he starts to move that ball across his body, we could consider that at rest. But you don't want to split hairs on those type things. And then again, like Milt said, after that, if he's got left foot on the floor, even in high school and college, only 1 step after that, his pivot foot never returns to the floor. That would be legal at all levels. I'm with you, Mark, on the first one too. I was thinking, with the ball being on this side of the floor and this drive, or with him starting on that side of the floor, let's suppose it's a strong side. It starts on the strong side. If your trail right there, he's moving away from you, you're looking at his back, you're probably not going to be able to see that. It only really opens up to the slot official on the other side, who may or may not even be looking at that play. That's one that would be splitting hairs. That's an ant, in my opinion. I would not call that probably on that first on that rip through.
Yeah. And when it comes to the rip through, with the way that I break down plays, I just want people to understand the rule. I mean, it's a little nuance to it, but at the same time too, I want people to know what a travel actually is. So I have to break it down like this so they understand what an actual travel is. But I know at the same time too, that rip through is not being called a travel on any level. So, I'm just coming from a different perspective.
Yeah, maybe high school from time to time they would call that because based on what it looks like. And go ahead, James.
No, I was going to say I didn't see the travel live on the first one. That, like Chip said, is really split hairs. And then a little nuance that Mark and I were talking about here is when he ends his dribble with that left foot, right? there. In the NBA, that's considered
Still has
step
2
zero.
steps.
Yeah, so he's allowed
Yep.
2 more steps in the NBA. So that is a
Yep.
difference between high school, college, and the NBA because he could still take another step after here. He can go right, left, up. But that first one, man, I don't want to be that good. That's being real tight,
No.
real tight.
Yeah, what's
For sure.
But,
in the
sure.
but
context
back to
that
back to
is,
Sony's
that
point
happened.
on
Go ahead, Mark.
No, what I was saying was,
Go ahead,
I
Mark.
guess a good litmus test would that be if that happened 100 times, could you get it 70 times? Because it's not fair to get that once. If it happens another 78 times in the game and you miss it, that's not fair. So I think the obvious nature of it is what gets us to that play. And that's why, I mean, I'm just going to keep fanboying on Milton. That's the reason why, is because think about how much easier the game is to referee when coaches are teaching the right thing. The frustration comes in is when
That's
you
it.
work with a kid on a
That's it.
move and then the move is illegal. The kid has frustration because he spent a lot of time on it. Coach has a lot of frustration, spent a lot of time on it. And now it's called as a, and that goes both ways. We have to be accountable to legal moves, not calling it. But I had a coach tell me very early in my career, I called a travel on a play that looked awkward. And he told me that his player had been working on that all summer. And he asked me how much time did I spend on that move that summer in terms of looking at it. And that resonated with me because we have to match that effort
great.
and intensity in terms of what it is, because we were taught to referee the way it was coached. Now, with the advent of transparency, everybody should have the same information. And then that eliminates a lot of confusion. We should all understand it, both when we're right and when we're wrong.
Definitely.
Yeah,
For sure.
That's great. And Milt, what do we say all the time? We always say awkward does not equal travel, right?
100%.
We say that all the time. Awkward does not equal travel.
Right.
So Milton, how did you and Chip get to know each other? Because as I'm hearing Chip talk about the rules, I'm feeling a lot of
Symmetry.
synergy there. You know, now I get where this fountain of knowledge is coming from. How did
Yeah.
y'all get to know each other?
So basically, when I made my first Travel or Not video, I got reached out to because I didn't understand that it was different rules for each level when it came to traveling. And I got reached out to by Ish. I'm sure he's in the chat right now.
Yeah.
But I got reached out to him, and he kind of was like, "Yeah, this would be legal on the NBA, but not the other levels." And I was like, "Huh?" I was like, "The rule is not the same." And he sent me the actual rule for each level, and I was
Wow.
able to study it. And I'm like, "Wow, okay, that blew my mind." But I guess him and Chip, excuse me, had already been
Connected.
talking or connected or communicating, and he just was like, "Well, I have this official friend that I learned from, and we've been having this group chat now since what 2020 or
Dude,
late
like 5 years, man. 5 years.
I asked him a million questions, and I've learned a lot for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
And
man.
I think we're all continuing to learn. And there's always, you think you've seen everything, and there's always a new play that's very similar to everything, but it's always got a little bit of a different flavor to it. Here's another play that you've posted recently, Milton. Again, I think a lot of misconceptions around the hop here and in terms of what's legal and what's not. Talk us through, your analysis of this play.
I feel like this one was pretty easy. I don't even know why people are confused about this. Ended the dribble on left and took his 2 legal steps after gather. I'm not sure maybe the little hop there is what threw people off, but
Definitely the hop. Yeah.
I mean, and maybe changing directions as well, but I mean, still same legal footwork.
I think that's
On
that's
NBA and FIBA levels.
that's the
NBA,
point
Yeah.
I think that's what I said.
that we get all the time on that one. It's because the plane changes, and when the plane or the direction changes, people get confused by what the steps, and still the same 2 count, and they don't have to be in a straight plane towards the rim. I mean, the genius of our players, now we're doing it in reverse, going further away from the basket to create space. I mean, it's genius, but it goes back to understanding the rules of your league as a player and as a coach, and then using them to your advantage.
Yeah, and what throws people off on this one potentially too is because of the rule differences between leagues. There's a rule in the high school rule book that is not in the men's college, women's college, FIBA, or NBA rule book. And it's in Rule 444C or 3C, and it talks about after the players stopped and established a pivot foot, if they jump, neither foot can be returned to the floor. So I think back to a deep dive ref Zoom meeting that I was doing with Eric Lewis one time. We were leading that, and we covered a Euro step. And he says, if a high school official considers that a jump, then I can't tell them that they're wrong. But there's no way that Euro step is a jump. It's a step. That's the confusion sometimes between leagues. And while I would not call that, if he had ended his dribble with both feet off the floor here and then stepped 1-2, there's no way I'm calling that a travel at any level, right? College, high school, FIBA, NBA, whatever. But that's one of the reasons for some disconnect on a play like this is people really try to differentiate too much between a step and a jump. There's no height limit on a step. This is obviously a Euro. He's changing direction, trying to get around a defender. So in that situation, that's a step. We're considering that legal. And also, just to reiterate, NCAA men's rule set, while they did not change the verbiage in the rule, as of 3 years ago, they came out with a directive that said Euro steps are to be considered legal because it's so hard sometimes to see when they ended their dribble and if it was 1 foot on the floor. So on Euro steps, they want a play like that to be considered legal at the NCAA men's level.
As it should
Really
be.
interesting stuff, Chip. And
Yes,
as it should be, right? Right. I was going to say, Chip, as you're breaking it down and like giving us this knowledge, it's like I feel like you're like really come correct. Like I feel like I'm at a Senate congressional hearing here where they're talking to like the Supreme Court nominee, and you're like, well, in Article 7 and 5 in Marbury versus Madison, they said this. I was like, damn, this guy's like really coming correct.
Listen, Milt will tell you I am literally tedious when it comes to that stuff. I mean, here's my thought is this is like the way I think of officiating is like taking a test, right? But you have to answer the questions to that test within 2 seconds. So that means you have to be able to have recall, which means you need to have studied film, which means you need to know the rules backwards and forwards. So if you're taking a test and you have to answer within 2 seconds, you're probably not going to do very well unless you put in the work and study ahead of time, right? We've all been one of those people taking exams. We didn't cram, we didn't study. We go in there and we fail the test. Refereeing is like taking a test. That's the way I view it. Every single game you're presented with something new. You have no clue what questions are going to be on the test, but you have to know the answer and you got to know it quick. Right. And so that's the way I look at officiating. And if I don't do my due diligence on the back end from a rule standpoint, I could get caught off guard. And us as officials will tell you that's a terrible place to be.
Chip, I think that's an excellent point.
That's another reason how I've learned a lot too. Go ahead, Mark.
No, man, what I was going to say, that's an excellent point because it's almost like you're taking an exam and it's a short answer question. And the question is yes or no, comma, explain. So it's not a multiple choice question. It's not a true false question. It's a short answer question. It's yes or no, then explain, because much of what officiating is being able to articulate the decision that you made. Yeah. So no good judge makes a decision without understanding the consequence of that decision. And then no good judge should make a decision without being able to articulate the reasons for their decision. So you can guess travel, and in a true false question, you got 50% chance of being right. But the buy-in from your constituents, your customers, your players, the coaches, the fans is your explanation of that decision afterwards, which brings it up. It's a true false question. Now explain your answer. And that's a point that you made. And the more you young officials can understand the verbiage in the rule book and stick to that verbiage, that's a really safe space for an official.
That's outstanding.
That's what meant so much to me, just as a teacher, as someone who, wants to be the best version of myself so I can help somebody reach their goals. But if I don't know the baseline, if I don't understand the rules, if I don't understand what I'm teaching, how good of a teacher am I really? You know what I mean? So like they're saying, oh, coach, they're calling travel on me for this. I should be able to know and understand why and what's really going on, and to really be able to help you to be, your best self as well as, my best self. So. We've watched how many plays you think we've watched over the
Oh
past
man,
5 years? Millions.
oh million. I do that.
So many plays.
There's been days where we've sent 50 plays to each other.
Yeah.
Between you, me, and Ish.
Yeah.
Like crazy.
And I know that you've watched millions of plays. You know how I know that? Because when I see Milton run out of stuff to post and start posting
Yes.
clips of 2K.
That's the entertainment side, baby.
Now I know we've run out of stuff to look at, you know.
That's crazy.
He hasn't gathered yet.
Left one.
That's
I love when you break down. I love when he breaks down 2K plays, man. Those are so much fun.
1, 2, 3. Yeah.
I just imagine Milton at home and his wife and his kids, and he's like, "Hold on, honey,
Put it back
hold
down.
on. I have to break down Trae Young in 2K25." But no, Milton, I've been playing 2K25, and I've seen a couple of suspect things, and like it was in the back of my mind. And then when I watched this, I was just like, "Yes, that's right. Thank you." I felt like I wasn't crazy because I've seen some stuff that was kind of fuzzy, and yeah, what's going on with that? The 2K folks need to get they need to get on this.
They need to hire Milton is what they need to do. They need to hire Milton to put footwork in the game that's crazy, and then to not let them do crazy plays like this without being called travel.
That's so bad right there. That's so bad. That's bad.
Well, and we'll explain why real quick. So obviously for the refs watching, we should know this because he touched the ball twice. The NBA rule is he touched the ball more than once during a dribble, and so his dribble has ended, and then he dribbles again. So it's a double dribble violation. The terminology is a little different in the other rule books, but it's the same result. Since he touched the ball with two hands, or since he touched the ball with alternating hands during the dribble before the ball bounces, that's why it's a dribble.
And we see that a bit more lately when folks do when you see the step back to the hezzy and then come back on the drive, they switch hands, right?
Who did it? And Pajinski as well.
Yeah. There's another thing, Mark and James. I play 2K quite a bit, and I'm always looking at the referees. And some of them look like you.
We ain't getting paid off of that.
You know,
we ain't getting one dime. We ain't getting one dime off of that. We're not getting one dime.
That's one thing. Although I haven't seen number 60, James, but I've seen someone that looks like you. And Mark, I've seen someone that looks like you, but like I'm not 100%. But you know, here's the other thing. The referee mechanics are so bad in the game. Like where they're positioned and like how they operate in the game is so bad. And I didn't understand that because I'm not a referee. But now that I work with folks like, you know, smart people like you all, now I'm like, this is really bad. Like we've really got to reach out to 2K. Milton, like it could be a two-pronged thing where, you know, you can work with them on adding some more moves to the game and making sure it's correct. And then maybe we could help with the referee mechanics and making it doesn't have to be perfect, but it can be better than it is.
Every time we post a video like this, the section says that the entire time.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Like honestly, if I was playing with the Cleveland Cavs on this play and Trae Young got away with this, I would be yelling like, "Trell, what are you looking at, bro? You can see those two hands like touch the ball behind his back. Come on, bro. What are you doing?"
Yeah, I'm telling myself I've never watched 2K. But my question is, can you have a violation or a foul in 2K?
Yeah.
Oh, you can? Okay.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
You can have fouls.
So there's an and one.
Yes.
There's an and one where your opponent fouls you, score the basket, and you get a free throw.
Yep.
There you go.
Now here's the question.
Yep.
I would love to analyze some of those.
Yeah, here's my question. Do the referees get graded on whether they're right or not in 2K?
No way.
They don't, but you know what? If they had a version of the game where you could just be the referee and you had to move in position, I would totally play that game maybe more than the other game. Like that would be really interesting.
I would absolutely play that.
Probably not getting that far away.
The referee on the baseline is frozen. Look at him on the baseline. He's like frozen.
Guys, there's a litany of violations. I guess he doesn't gather there. I mean, we know the end is dribble. Let's just say it did.
There's the guy.
And then he continues on. We don't have another. But we have 1, Oh, there's
like a
little baby steps in
Yeah.
there too.
Yeah.
Milt, what about this move right here? Is that 1, 2, 3 quick, or are you going with the second gather on the scoop?
Yeah, I'm going gather 1, 2 right there.
Okay.
You can get away with that.
You can get away with that.
You can get away with that one.
All right, let's look at another play. This is something that's been becoming increasingly popular, is the slow step.
Yeah.
And this is like a slow step with some sugar on top of it. So yeah, talk to us about that, Milton, and you know, what are the things that people just get hung up on and are arguing with you about with plays like this?
So technically this one was a travel.
Yeah, because the right foot comes
but
back down.
They got hung up on the carry part. But it's gather 1, 2, and then he ends up putting that. I really don't feel like he had to put that other foot down.
No, he didn't.
A little bit more patience and then just lay it up. But
yeah,
that's where people got hung up on. They got hung up on the beginning part too, when he kind of took some steps between that dribble. And I'm like, man, what's up with y'all?
Let's take a look then. You know, let's look at a couple of other non-Milton plays, maybe. Last week we looked, Milton, at some contact stuff.
Yeah,
I'm interested to look at a contact play. This is something that I saw a bit on Instagram. Folks were talking about, hey, is this a foul? Is this an offensive foul? Is this a defensive foul? Is this a no call? What do we say, team?
I think the first bump is cool, but this elbow right here was nasty.
All right, so referee the defense, Milt. Referee the defense. So let's watch the defender. He's giving ground on this. There's no elbow to wrist extension on that first one, so I don't have displacement on the first one. I have that as incidental.
Yeah.
It's just a bigger body and a smaller body.
Fact.
The second one that you're talking about, if you stick with the defender, he still sticks his head and leans forward. And then again, I do not like players or coaches teaching like doing a rip through at eye level is super dangerous. The defender does put his head in there though and leans back forward after he's trying to get back in front of him. I'm not sure I call it unless I see the contact to the face, but it's one of those that I could see an offensive foul being called on that, and James and Mark going to the monitor to check it out.
Yeah, because other than that, Chip, you got to call an and one as his chin contacted his elbow. And I don't
exactly. You don't, and everybody's going to be losing their mind.
Yeah, we're not going to have a chin foul where he and one. I think that's an offensive foul. Yeah,
on that one right there.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
I think he got him with both elbows. I think he got him with both elbows on that too.
Oh.
This is
now,
like
you know what's interesting about this too? What I like about this is also angling, the angle and positioning here. This is kind of an approximate of where the lead would see this play, right? And so that's really helpful for a non-official to think about when they're watching a game on TV and how the game is officiated. A lot of it comes down to where you're standing, and as an official, you don't want to guess, right? So it's interesting. I am a little surprised. I thought you all were going to say play on, but you all are saying offensive foul on the second part of the play there.
Yeah, I'm saying play on the first one. Do you guys agree with play on the first?
Yes. The first one is marginal
because he's giving ground.
The second one is potentially a flagrant. That is not a basketball move. When he's coming like this, it's designed to get the defender off you.
Like this?
Yeah, I mean, you blow it, you come. That's if it's severe enough, it could be a flagrant too. If he really makes good contact and just but it's potentially a flagrant one, for sure.
If you freeze it right there, if you take a look at it, when the arm forms are both vertical, I'll give him on the first one that it could be a normal basketball move. But let's look at the contact of the right forearm. It's parallel to the ground. That, to me, is the last key to the puzzle of whether that is versus a complete over the top. This one might be, but that one gets that way. That's an offensive foul.
At a minimum.
Yeah. You're definitely going to the monitor to check that one out. You're definitely going to look at that one for sure.
I am.
We just saw it once. Well, we need to look at it again.
Mark is not going.
Yes, I am. But I just saw
Mark doesn't want to go.
Shame
So
that
you're coming straight out with the F1 on that one, Mark.
well, no. As per rule, you cannot call a flagrant foul without going to the monitor.
Correct.
So absolutely not.
I know. So you got to go to the monitor,
However,
baby.
if you think it's an offensive foul, then it's an offensive foul. Coach Milt, what do you have on that? What do you have on that, Coach
I
Milt?
agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got offensive foul for sure. But
Yeah,
if
for sure.
if I'm the defender, I'm begging for a flagrant for sure. I'm begging for a flagrant
with your nose bleeding and everything, for sure.
Man, it might be a tooth on the floor, man. You never know.
He's like,
Tooth is two. Tooth is two. Tooth is two.
Tooth is two.
yep, absolutely.
You
All right,
see
Sam,
at the beginning of the play too, he swung his elbows to start the play. He was trying to do something. He was annoyed. He was annoyed by the pesky defense. Look at the elbow in the beginning, swinging the elbows high.
Now, hey, Milt, real quick before we move on to this one, Sony, that first contact play, Milt, you put out a really good video recently of you training your guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd love for you, if we have a second, Sony, just to bring it up to James and Mark, because Milt did a great job in this video talking about using your shoulder to not necessarily clear space, but using it to your advantage.
Yeah.
Milt, can you talk about that for just a second real quick? You did a really good job breaking that down, because I see a lot of trainers on IG Live sometimes talking about using your off arm to create space, but it's clear outs, it's elbow to wrist, it's all different stuff. I thought that was really, it just goes to show the kind of trainer that Milton is and how much care he takes to get the right stuff out there.
Yeah. So basically I just wanted them, you want to create an advantage. You don't want to run the defender over, and it's a fine line. But what I pose is just using the whole side of your frame as opposed to extending. So you use their momentum against them. So as you drive, you get them on your shoulder, and you just engage and disengage quickly, and that's all the space that you need to make a read. So basically, that's all I was saying. And just and making sure that they're because it's to your advantage when they're on the side of you and when they haven't established legal guarding position. Now that's when things get to open up a little bit more for the offensive player, as opposed to just running through his torso. So
yeah, I like that. That was good stuff, man.
There's been a lot of the theme for today's session. It's like it's Mark and it's Chip just giving flowers to Milton the entire time.
I'm gonna give flowers to both. I'm going to give flowers to both. I was thinking about what I was going to wear today, and instead of picking between the two, so I could support my guy Milt, or I could support my guys at Ref Masters.
Nice.
So instead of picking between the two, I just went with the plain white tee, baby.
There we go. You the coolest, Chip.
Next time we'll figure out how to do both. But no,
I have, Sonny, one more thing to say about Milt, and it's relevant to this, and we discussed this earlier. The coaches, the things that he's coaching, if you're coaching within the rules, that gives your team an inherent advantage. It really does. And then you also coach within the rules, or you're teaching offensive moves. It helps them understand how they can defend it as well, because you know the difference between filling that space, keeping your balance, not losing that space, meeting it with equal space, equal force, which is what as a defender you're allowed to do, is meet it with equal force. And when you meet it with equal force and you are as strong, then you keep your balance. And then when he steps back, you're able to take that space back. So all of this keeps going back to the same variation on the theme, is that once referees know how the game is coached, once coaches understand how the rules are, it makes it a much easier game, less confrontation. And then because no one ever comes to see anybody referee, it makes it much more, it makes it the entertainment better, as well as the competition better. And that's when that's what people really want to see, is they want to see really hard competition. And that, no one wants to see 186 to 194, but they want to see those defensive positions and those offensive moves that counterbalance to that. And that's the genius of our game. That's the genius of some of the plays that Milt has come up with that are within the rules, but seem so. Imagine a defender. When you show the Euro move and look at the move that Milt was using. Imagine the first time someone tried to defend that move. Who taught you how to defend that?
You're not gonna be
Nobody at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
No
Exactly.
one.
Really good point.
That's
No
why I
one.
that's why a move like James Harden's step back was just so polarizing like it was, because we had never seen it before, and most people were too busy trying to call it a travel, but he was within the rules within the confines of the rules. So it's like using it to your advantage is what it's all about. And I feel like you don't go to any other game, and you don't go to maybe not even just a game, but anything in general without knowing the rules of it.
No, you'd be
Like, I
surprised.
feel like that's the base.
You'd be
know.
surprised.
But that's been our message. That's been our message from the start, right, Milt? Like, in all the content that you've posted that I've worked with you on, that Ish has been involved in, all the content I post on X or Twitter, rules. It's all rules related content, and our message the whole time is exactly what Mark said: is like, how can you play the game you love if you don't know the rules to it, And then also, if you want a competitive advantage, like, study the rules as a player or a coach, man. Those who know the rules have a significant advantage, and the ones that train that way have a significant advantage over those teams that don't. So
Much
why
more
would you
efficient.
not, if you're looking for that competitive advantage, why would you not? Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
I'll leave you
I
with
feel
this
like
because
like when everybody
No, what I was going to say, I was going to leave you with this. When I look at our players today and I look at the game today, I think of it much more as jazz musicians. And in order to have a really solid jazz solo, or in order to have a phenomenal guitar riff, you have to know the scales, the basic scales, and you play off of that. That is our dribblers, our ball handlers, our really profound offensive players. They know the fundamentals better than everybody else. And then they build off of those fundamentals with ingenuity, innovation, and different planes, different paces, different tempo. And that makes a beauty. That's a phenomenal saxophone solo, and that's a phenomenal guitar riff, and that's a phenomenal offensive move. But it's based on the scales. It's based on the fundamentals as they're taught.
That's
good.
And another thing I wanted to do, and I know me and James and Sony have talked about this before, even Chip, is like, I feel like it will never be a perfect world between a player and an official. Because it's just so much passion behind it, and you want your team to win. But at the same time, too, when you all have an understanding, when you have an understanding of the rules, you eliminate some of the nonsense.
So this is
That'll
so I
help.
had a
That'll
conversation
help.
I have a conversation with a player who I think, in my opinion, is one of the best 2 or 3 ball handlers I've ever seen. And I called him for a carry violation. He ran up to me and said, "Mark, I didn't carry." I said, "Both you and I know you carry, because you're the best ball handler I've ever seen, and I've never seen you do anything unintentional, and you carry. You put your hand on that ball on purpose." He said, "Damn, I know."
Yeah.
Because he got handled. And if his hand went underneath, it was on purpose. And then you explain it to me. Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Because I've seen you, your handle is pristine. When you put your hand on there to pause, you knew exactly what you were doing. He was like, "You're right." End of that conversation.
I'm learning, Mark,
because I got to
you're very good at
Milt was not my first love. Julie Davis is, and I must leave now.
That's what I was going to say.
My day is complete.
Okay, that's
My man. I appreciate you. It's nice to meet you,
Thank
Mark.
you, guys.
Nice to
Chip,
meet
nice
you. Thanks
seeing
so much,
see you,
Mark.
Mark.
Looking forward to meeting you.
Good to see you too, brother.
Yes, sir.
Yep. All right, brother. Yep. Safe travels.
All right.
Yep.
That's funny.
Hey, good luck this season, Mark.
Mark, don't
I was
need
going to
love.
say, Mark is very good at giving flowers strategically. Like he gave flowers to that player to make a point. How is he going to argue? No, I'm not one of the best ball handlers ever.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I was like, yeah, you're right.
Sony, and listen, James is the one that can speak to this, but one of the things that I love about working as a statistician for the Magic is I'm courtside, and I get to hear some of the conversations that James and Mark have with players or coaches.
Yeah.
And it's just, as a ref myself, I eat that stuff up, man, because I'm like, And I talk to Tivin about this all the time, is like the way, and because I watch you guys, even when I'm not as a statistician, James, I watch you guys because I want to learn and get better. And one of the things that I have to get better at is, a surprise, surprise, being an efficient and effective communicator. So efficient is my biggest thing. And so, but my body language and my facial expressions, and that's something they do so well. And Sony, to your point, the way Mark just said that too, it was a compliment inside of that answer, that feedback that he gave to that player. And the NBA refs that I've seen, James, Mark, a lot of these guys, they do it so well, man. And if a lot of our fans could hear some of those conversations, I know you wouldn't want them to hear all of them, James, but if they could hear some of those conversations, man, they would have a new respect for how the officials handle themselves on the court, for sure.
Definitely. Tivin's my guy too. That's my
Tivin's
guy.
awesome, man. He's my guy, dude. I love him.
He's
awesome.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. You're welcome,
that's
man.
really cool. Let's play a few more, and for our audience, love the engagement. And if you have questions for our panel today, let us know. Share your questions in the chat. We've got a few more minutes left here, and we always want to make this as interactive and engaging as possible. But yeah, let's take a look at some more basketball here.
Nah, this was hilarious, dog.
We like to do some serious stuff for James. He's really into this serious stuff. But no, what was crazy about this, Milton, and James, I'm sparing you. There is another play that Milton did recently that is so ridiculous that I'm not gonna put it on this podcast. But that was
James
amazing.
was gonna
Milton.
react
That's what I'm talking about, and I laughed so hard watching that.
Ow.
So if you don't regularly check out Milton's stuff, now I'm giving flowers. Do check it out. He's got a really funny one recently. But what I like about this, Milton, is like he almost got this.
Close, man. Super close.
Super close.
Gucci's like, I'm out. Gucci's like, I'm out. I ain't discussing this one. Oh man. I'll be honest here. If I saw somebody try this, unless I was sure they jumped off one foot and landed on both simultaneously, I don't care what league I'm in, I'm probably going to call that.
No.
To be honest with you, like if I see somebody try to do a flip, I'm like, that's disrespecting the game.
Yeah, that is insane. That is insane. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't, like, it was so close. I'm like, whoa.
To Chip's point, so the options here is that he could have somehow delayed his gather, or he could have landed on both feet, right? Yep. Or he could have just landed on that 1 foot and then used that. It didn't bring the second foot down. If he landed on 1 foot somehow and didn't like break his bones,
Right.
So there was a few ways to get this legal. It's close. Yeah. And you said this in your in this post. Someone's going to get this.
They are.
Yeah, someone's going to do it. It's going to be legal. It's going to be nuts. And we'll be back.
I would just say for it to be legal and for it to be something that I'm like okay with, I'm like, I need them to land on both feet like a jump stop. You know what I mean? Like I need them to jump off that one, land on both simultaneously, and then I would be like, all right, no question, that's legal. Milt, think back to a lot of the breakdowns we've done together in the past on step back moves. People are like, you can't land 1-2 on this or this, that, and the other. And we're like, or talking about jump stops. Yeah. You can't do certain things between jumping off one and landing on both simultaneously. I'm like, why not? It doesn't matter what you do in the air. There's nothing, like you could pump fake a shot. You could wave to the crowd. You could do a flip. Remember me using that language, talking to somebody? As long as you land on both feet simultaneously for that jump stop, it's legal. So sure, if you do a flip here and you land on both, I would consider that legal, and I would let it go.
If he would have tucked both here and just landed at this, that would have been crazy.
Boom. Like landing the jump at the Olympics. James, anything you want to say on this one, or do you want us to just move on?
No, what Chip just said. If he sticks the landing with both, that's considered a jump stop, a legal jump stop. But then after that, he can't pivot, right? He's got to jump to pass or shoot. But like I said,
he could lift one or both.
He could lift one.
He could lift one or both feet after the jump stop.
He can jump to pass or shoot. But what I mean is he can pivot again after the jump stop.
Right.
But like I said in like one of our first podcasts with Milton, when players start doing flips like this on the floor, I'm out.
Peace out.
I'm out. I'm out.
That's great, man. That's
What if he
great.
dunks it too?
He'd just walk off the court. He'd just walk right
Yep.
off the court, say, I'm resigning. See you guys.
I'm done.
Oh, man.
Gucci is done. Out.
Oh,
Nixon style. Just,
I love it.
throw the deuces up,
Yes.
get on the plane,
Oh,
get on the chopper. Yep. All right, let's
That's
look at a couple more plays with our time today. So yeah, here was a bang bang play I saw recently, and yeah, I wanted to get your thoughts on this. Right? I mean, it's a travelable for the foul. Do we like this call? Do we would we see it differently? Just interested in your take on this.
I want to get James's opinion on something because what I see is a split and go, it's a different variation of a split and go travel, where they move both feet prior to releasing the ball to start their dribble. However, James, would you consider her a progressing player here? She catches the ball on her right, goes to her left, and then takes a step with her right. Because in the NBA, if she's a progressing player here, or WNBA, then you get one step after the 0 step. You get one step before releasing the ball to start a dribble. But if she was to catch it with both feet on the floor, this is an obvious split and go travel. But do you have 0-1 release or 0-1-2 release, or is it a catch with both feet on the floor, split and go?
What I have is in the NBA, every referee is going to give her left foot as her pivot, not her right. We're not gonna
Right.
be that. We are not saying the right is the pivot. The left is the pivot here. And
No, of course not. That's the 0. That's the 0 in my opinion.
Yeah, and so she's getting ready to release the ball as about the same time she's getting fouled. The most ideal decision here is a defensive foul on number 20, who's putting up his hand because he wants to admit to the foul. So I would not call this a travel at all. I think that is, again, splitting hairs. Does she release the ball as her pivot? The left is coming up. Probably if you freeze frame it, if you go 1/4 of 1 second speed, but no one can see that in live speed.
Yeah.
So left's pivot, it's a legal release, defensive foul.
I respect that.
I can respect that for sure.
Is number 20 arguing the foul? No way.
No, he's putting his hand up saying I fouled.
He's admitting to the foul, but he's like, "Oh, there's something else here? Travel? Okay, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, this is where the
Even he's confused as well.
Yeah.
I was about to say.
This is why we say don't be that good.
So you're going.
Go ahead, Sony.
You're going defensive foul on this.
Yeah, not a travel. We tell referees, focus on the elephants in the room, right? Focus on the big picture stuff, the obvious stuff. What's the most obvious thing on this play? The clear defensive foul by 20. So call that. Leave the stuff that only you see in slow motion. Leave that alone.
Yep.
And Chip, your initial argument here was, again, like a razor thin legal argument. Hey, maybe you have another business here, Chip, where you could, for a fee, you could go sit sideline for a player, and anytime that player is whistled for a foul, you could make the case for them and explain, if we saw them as a progressing player, Your Honor, I think then, if the glove doesn't fit, you have to
quit. Yep.
Yeah,
Honestly, if I wasn't an active referee right now, my 2 jobs that I would want to do is to either be on a team, NBA team, as the guy who decides whether or not we're going to challenge a play, or see if the NBA would hire me just to work in the work in Secaucus in the replay center with Kane. Those are the only 2 things I would want to do if I was not an active official, because I love reviewing film. And I think I would be really great at it. In fact, Mark Cuban reaches out to me all the daggum time on Twitter, and we talk. Maybe one of these days when I quit refereeing, I'm going to ask him if I can just work for the Dallas Mavericks and sit behind the bench and be their coach's challenge guy.
What's Mark reaching out to you for?
Of course, he's talking crap about you guys, and I won't allow it. So he's got to argue with me about stuff like that. No, I will say this: Mark has always been respectful in my communication with him.
Yeah.
But we have some long discussions sometimes in DM, man. Like some long ones, and I'll send it. I'll be like, Mark, he is a junkie. He's knowledgeable about stuff.
He sent me some plays travel.
That's what he's passionate, man.
And there's obvious.
I remind Mark all the time that as a Boilermaker, I would never ever listen to anything a Hoosier says. Because he went to IU, so we know nothing down there in Bloomington.
He did.
I hope he sees this clip because I tell him that all the time. No, he's really passionate about refereeing and officiating, and so we get it. It's refereeing is like the law. It is. It's like the reason why you can do these arguments is because it's like a lot of referees, they have like judges or lawyer mentalities because you have to be able to interpret the law. And that's what a lawyer does. That's what a judge does. And so you have to be able to make your arguments where you can be convincing to try to bring people along with you.
And the hardest ones to do that on are the go Boilermakers. The hardest ones to do that on are those gray area plays when you're discussing gray area plays with people that are not officials, James. Those ones where there's a lot of judgment involved. It's not black and white. It's that's where we earn our living. It's like those in the gray. So having discussions like that where we're talking about gray area plays where there's judgment involved, whether it be, hey, did he affect his SQRB, or was he giving ground, or was it an arm extension, or was it like sometimes there's judgment involved, and those are the harder ones where you just have to say, hey, listen, I understand your point, and this is the same way you guys would handle it when you're talking to a player or a coach. I understand your point on that. I saw that a little bit differently. I think he's displaced on this one from his legal position, and that's why I would have a foul on this play, offensive foul. So, stuff like that. But the gray area plays are the tough ones to convey to people that don't understand the rules verbatim.
Hey, Chip, I want to come back to something Ish in the chat, going back to the somersault, the flip play. Because you talked about your hesitancy or your inclination to call it. He said, what if he flipped legally to avoid a charge?
I love it.
Yo.
I love it. James, would you walk off the court if he flipped legally to avoid a charge?
No.
Yep.
No.
We're out, right? We're done.
Any scenario with people flipping on the court. No.
Hey, I was in a viral clip. Ish laughs about it all the time. Me and Milton Ish have sent it to each other. He sends it every so often. But I was working a high school game years back, and this clip went viral because I called a charge on it. This guy broke this kid's ankles like with a pullback, but he shoved him off and tripped him, but nobody could see it. And the defender goes doing somersaults on the floor. And it's this viral clip, and I obviously punched it and sent it the other way. But that's one of those that I'll allow. He absolutely could not help himself. He got tripped and pushed and started falling and flipping on the floor. So, but he moved what, Milt? Like probably like 20 feet on the ground.
So far.
It was crazy, man. It was crazy. I'll have to send that play to you guys sometimes. It was funny.
That would be awesome. I love it. This has been good. We're having a varied conversation, lots of different topics. Chip, it's been awesome having you here. You've really added another dimension and a really great addition to the conversation. So we love it and would love to have you back for sure. And really enjoyed having Marc here as well. Marc Davis, NBA referee. And it's just been really good. I just put in the chat asking our audience as we continue to move forward and create and deliver more content like this, let us know if there's different types of plays, different topics that you'd be really interested for us to talk about. We're always trying to get that feedback. And as we get ready for the next NBA and college basketball season, we're just always looking for new things and trying to figure out the best way that we can entertain and inform our audience. So any last words before we close? I'll start with you, Milton. Takeaways from today and what are our thoughts as we move forward here?
No, today was great, man. It was fun. I love these conversations because I actually get to talk to people who speak the same language as me. It's very rare. So, no, I always have a lot of fun. I always appreciate these conversations, and hopefully, as we continue to grow, you guys will, more and more of you guys will feel the same way.
Definitely. And I mean, if you are Milton, because I don't know if you're actually Milton, because you look so different today. I'm not, but if you are Milton, we definitely appreciate that. I like that shirt. I'd love to get my hands on one of those shirts. I'm wondering if they all come with the padding like that to make it look like, because that's not really your muscles, right? It's not
The
real.
shoulders.
Oh, that's hard work, man. That's hard work.
I need the ones with the shoulder pads
I need
too, man. Can I get the shoulder pad ones?
Yeah. Yeah, we're doing a fitness challenge in the Ref Masters app. We just started this week, and we've got folks from around the country posting videos. Actually, we have one referee, a FIBA referee, Eric, from Africa, that actually posted earlier today running on the treadmill, and I posted a picture of myself at Donut King, lifting a box of donuts. So I probably should work on that. Anyway, I digress. Chip, I hope you had a good time here today. Any closing thoughts, words for our audience today?
Yeah, well, listen, first of all, let me say thank you guys for having me on. Milton and I have had discussions for years, and we talk all the time, and it's really great to have, or for you guys to have me on today. And I'm always trying to learn stuff too, man. I don't want to ever come across as a know-it-all or anything like that. There's things that I can glean from everybody, and so I just really appreciate you guys having me on. I'd love to come back sometime soon and break down some more plays. That'd be great. But yeah, season's right around the corner for us, man. I've been putting in the work too. I've lost almost 25 pounds in the last 3 months. And trying to put on some more muscle and stuff like that. But hey, here's what we say all the time, right? We got to get in game shape, because these players that we're officiating stay the same age pretty much all the time, and we keep getting older, right? So we got to be able to keep up with them. So guys, go after your fitness goals. If you got them there, make a note of them, stick with them. Whether it's eating healthier, which is something that I had to do. I had to cut out, I'm terrible to admit it, but I was a big soda guy, a big Coke guy, and I cut those out completely, and I'm just drinking water now. And that helped me lose a ton of just sugar weight. You know what I mean? So find your goals, stick to your goals. If you got something you want to go after, whether it be in officiating, or for those that are listening to us that are coaches or players, whether it be for the season, set goals, periodic goals that can help you get there, and then go after it, man. Just attack the day each day and stay on track. But thank you guys for having me, man. It was great to be on.
Sure. And as far as fitness goes, last year I was, of course, same height. So I'm 6'5", but I weighed 184 last March, and now I weigh 227. So I gained 43 pounds of muscle in the last year and a half.
That's sick, man. Yeah. I had him talk to my son on the phone last night and tell him what he's doing, because my son's wanting to try to bulk up. Yeah. So Milt gave him some free advice last night over the phone.
For sure.
I love it. And inspirational words for sure. Thank you for that, Chip. James, anything, any final words on your end before we wrap up today?
Well, number one, congrats to Chip on his fitness journey. That's amazing, man. Losing 40 pounds in a few months there. That's really good, and it's showing, that you care about the craft, so you're putting the work in. And the work is not just the rule books and tape; it's also taking care of our physical bodies. For Milton, putting on 40 pounds in a year on his 6'5" frame, one thing Milton has, Chip, that your son doesn't have, is he got that black gene. Black.
True, that's facts right there. No cap.
We are Adonises. We age well. We look good. It's just the way. It's just natural for us.
I have to agree with you on that.
I don't know if we can figure out something for that, but as far as that's concerned, that black gene.
I love it, dude.
And for Sony, the donuts will not help you get the shoulders. Just
no.
No, but it's fun. Great. It's always I always enjoy talking the craft. Also, I always enjoy trying to help educate fans, players, coaches on the game that we love, right? We're just trying to show people how referees see the game. We're not perfect. We make mistakes every time we take the floor, whether it's myself, Mark, 2 finals referees, or someone coming into their first year, someone doing high school. It doesn't matter. But it's how we all get better. And like Mark said, if we can all get on the same page, we're all starting to talk the same language. When fans and players and coaches become more knowledgeable, trust me, the game is better served for everybody. And that's what this is all about. So thanks for joining us. Hope to see you on the next one.
Sure.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Great summary and wrap up from all three of you, and some feedback from our audience. From Ish, more defensive plays would be great. Thomas mentioned hand to elbow on shooters, elbow flicks. So yeah, we'll continue to vary the diet, so to speak, as we do more of these. But thanks so much for being part of this live recording of the Court Views podcast, where Rule IQ and Elite Skill meet. On behalf of Chip, James, Milton, Mark, I'm Sony. Thanks so much. See you next time.